Curb appeal is one of those things that is just so important for a house because it is the first impression that buyers get. They decide whether they like the house or not within the first 10 seconds of seeing it. Now, my name's Sam Oler and I'm a realtor in the greater Cleveland area, and I help a ton of people move here every year. So whether you're starting to think about moving in a couple weeks or a few months, I've definitely got programs that are going to make your life a lot easier, so do not hesitate to reach out. All of my contact information is down in the description. But back to today's topic, which is the exterior of your home and what is worth upgrading and what might be worth staying away from when you're starting to think about selling your house. Now, like I said, the exterior of the home is what determines whether or not the person actually wants to see inside of it. I cannot tell you how many times I've shown someone a house, we drove up to it, they see the exterior and it's in horrible condition, and they don't even want to go inside. So boosting that curb appeal is going to really drive the traffic to your house, and having something that looks really nice is going to make your selling process a lot easier. Now, not only does it make your house sell easier, but you are going to be able to generate a lot of interest with a pretty house. People always want that house that needs no work and is very turnkey, something that they're going to be able to just move right into and not have to lift a finger. Now, since the majority of people are looking for something like that, they're going to probably get into a bidding war if you catch one or two, maybe even three of them that are trying to get the same house at the same time, and that in turn will drive the prices up. Now, if you're getting ready to sell your house on a budget, a simple power wash outside, cleaning up the shrubs in the garden, putting new mulch down, making sure all the lines for the trimming between the sidewalk and the grass transition are completely clean, that is going to do wonders for you. Even if you've got some cracked concrete, you could put stuff in the cracks to make it look like it's a little bit more together, and it will just look more presentable overall. However, you can get into it a little bit more if you want to take on some projects like maybe resurfacing a deck that is already existing, or if you want to build a deck. Sometimes you don't always get your returns, so it's really important to pick and choose what you do to make it worth your time. Now, if you're not incredibly handy, or even if you are, decks can be incredibly expensive and you often don't see the returns on putting a brand new one in versus if you just left it the way it is. I'll go over some of the returns on what you can expect to get based on what project you do. I'm gonna go through all the different projects that you can go into first. Now, decks and patios are a great option to invest in if you already have it on the home, because if you resurface it or restain it, it's going to feel like brand new without actually having to spend that money to do so. Same with patios. If you've got some peeling paint on the concrete, or maybe the ceiling is looking a little bit dingy, you can clean those off, repaint them, re-epoxy the concrete, and it's just going to make it feel like a brand new place, and it's not going to be super expensive to do, and it's really easy to do yourself as well. Another thing to put a little bit of effort to is that if you have some moss or staining on your roof, a lot of the times it is worth getting a cleaner on that so that way it looks newer. And when you do that, people are going to realize that you invested into your property and took really good care of it, so that way they feel more comfortable making an offer on your home. Another thing that you can do to really enhance the outdoor property is build an outdoor kitchen. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking of something that's extremely extravagant, and it doesn't really need to be that. All you really need is just a little station for your grill to sit on top of and then some counter space next to it. And that feature alone is really inexpensive to do. One of those things that you can do DIY if you wanted to, or you could hire someone. Now, if you hire someone, you're probably going to be paying a lot more, but those features have some pretty good returns if you were to do a basic one. Now, if you were to start doing plumbing and electrical out to it, that's when it starts to get a little iffy on if it's worth it or not. The basic one is something you can do in a weekend by yourself, whereas you're probably going to need some sort of professional to come in and help you do it if you go the more extensive route. Now, having this little outdoor kitchen area mixed with some seating is going to make it really easy for someone to picture themselves living there. They're going to be able to see what they can do during the summertime and just be relaxing outside, enjoying everything, especially if they have a party and their friends over. They can kind of show off what they have and be super comfortable, because a lot of people aren't going to have these types of amenities. Now, if you've already got gas, electric, and water hookups outside, it might be a worthy investment just to get those set up so that way you have a lot of options as far as what you can put in there. I built a really cool outdoor kitchen on $1 million house probably a year ago or so at this point, and it wasn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be. Since it was already plumbed, had electric outside, and gas hookup, all I really did was reconfigure the space to be more modern. I did a concrete countertop, I did a tile face on it, and I put some amazing appliances in, and it really turned out to be something spectacular that ended up being a very worthy investment because it was fresh fresh and brand new, and it made the home feel ultra luxurious. Now, the best way to handle a project like this is not really doing it right before you sell. You really want to do it right when you move into the house, because that way you actually get to enjoy it, and then you're not going to want to sell it and leave it. It's going to be one of those things that is worthwhile to you because it's going to make your quality of life better while you live there. And then when you go to sell it, it's got that feature that is already on the house, making it super easy to sell because it's so appealing to the people who are going to be walking through it. Now, while we're talking about some of the backyard aesthetics that you can put effort into, there's some cheaper options that you can do there as well. Things that can bring a positive return on your investment can be anything from updated lighting to fire pit features, maybe some landscape lighting around, whether it be closer to the house or if you have features that are out in the yard that are worth highlighting. If you see those updated lights at night, it really gives that house an elegant feeling. And that's kind of what you're shooting for, is selling a specific lifestyle that someone could picture themselves living in. So as you're deciding what projects that are worth doing and not doing, keep in mind the majority of them are not going to have a positive return. And like I said, it's probably more beneficial to do that project at the beginning, so that way you get that feature that you want, you get to enjoy it, and then you also get to capture some of that money back when you go to sell the home. If you are doing some of these crazier upgrades, say maybe an in-ground pool or a bigger kitchen outside, just keep the materials and the size in mind, whether or not you're staying there for a very long time or if you're going to only be there for a few years. If you're only going to be there for a few years, it might be worth using a lesser quality material because it's going to be cheaper, rather than spending a ton of money on something that isn't going to recapture a lot of the value. If you're starting to plan some of these projects, here's a general rule of thumb as far as what you can expect to return on some of these projects that you're doing that might not get you that over 100% value. Fire pits will often exceed 80% of the value that you put into it. Outdoor kitchens, updated lighting, accent lighting, and landscaping are going to bring you between about 100% and 200% return on investment. New wooden decks are going to be about a 66% return on value. Now, if you're refinishing or resurfacing, that's going to be a little bit different depending on the quality before versus what it's going to feel like afterwards. Patios, pergolas, and swimming pools are probably not going to add a whole lot of value to the home. Pools will, however, you will not recapture 100% of the value that you put into it. Those three things are more of a monetary value that are going to be more appealing than making the house a lot easier to sell, just because it's got that feature. Now, there are a bunch of different options that you can do on the exterior of your home that are way further in depth than I talked about in this video. So if you are starting to think about those and you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be able to tell you whether or not it's worth it. But the main thing to keep in mind when you are doing these updates is going to be your quality of life when you are living there. Because if it's going to make your life better, realistically, it's probably worth putting the money into if you're going to be there for a really long time and get to enjoy it for a really long time. If you're not going to be living there for a long time, you could probably scale back your project a little bit and then recapture the majority of its value. That way you still get to enjoy it while you're there, and then the house also has that additional selling point when you go to get rid of it and move on to the next home. If you're starting to think about selling your home in the Cleveland area, like I said, feel free to reach out to me. All of my contact information is down in the description. And if you're down there trying to get a hold of me, before you go, hit that like button because it's going to help me out a ton, and definitely subscribe because it's going to keep you up to date with everything that's going on in the greater Cleveland area. I release weekly informational videos, so that way it's an easy stop for someone to stay updated. Now, with all of that being said, I'm going to leave the video there. I'll catch you in the next one.